I'm Lauren. I graduated from KIS in 2022, and I'm set to graduate from Yale University in 2026. I'm currently majoring in political science and hoping to get a certificate in data analysis.
Can you share a little bit just about your experience here at KIS?
I guess mainly what comes to mind is what clubs and organizations I was a part of. Number one thing that I'm super proud of is the time I invested into the debate clubs, the speech and debate club. I ended up captaining alongside a few of my friends in my senior year, and I was in the debate club since a freshman, since I was a high school freshman. And it was a really, really great experience for me to connect with people who were also passionate about debate and learning more about the topics that we were discussing. I was also involved in the mock trial club, the tennis varsity team, and Phoenix Ambassadors, as well as Suji Love.
What's something like, I guess, unique about KIS that kind of helped you in your experiences in university and maybe the application process too?
I feel like one thing that I really appreciated about KIS is just how accessible all these like activities that I participated in were. Now that I'm in university and I'm interacting with a lot of peers, I realized like how much of a privilege it was to have all of these clubs. The fact that I was able to explore those interests from such an early age. And these are still activities that I'm doing in Yale to this day. And it was just a really, really nice experience for me to just like, even as a high school freshman, be able to understand that this is something that I would really like to pursue like later on in my years.
Then maybe for like this year's freshmen, what's one piece of advice you'd give to them? Maybe.
Oh my gosh. This isn't really advice. I will start out with a word of encouragement, which is like, I hope that high school is not as daunting as it's made out to be. And it's really just all about a process of discovering yourself and your interests and also having fun in the process. I would really encourage talking to upperclassmen in like activities that you're interested in to see what their experiences are like, because oftentimes the reputation of a club is different from the actual experience that you get while being a member. And so that would shed more accurate light on if this is something you want to participate in. Another thing is also I would prioritize developing really good emotional intelligence skills early, because I feel like that really helped me in managing my stress all throughout high school and even in college. So for example, you could practice like destigmatizing going to therapy, or your counselors are always a resource for you. You could also learn like journaling skills and also try to like open up more to teachers, because I know that teachers at KIS are so nice and willing to help.
One of the core values here at KIS is balance in life. How do you think you managed having balance in life in so many different ways? And then how has that helped you now in your life too?
I think the number one thing that helped me is I was genuinely passionate about everything that I involved myself in. And I think the reason why that helps is because if you're not passionate about the things that you involve yourself in, it feels like a chore, and that can really take a toll on your mental health and affect your balance in life. But for me, it was more of like, I really like want to learn more about these things. I want to involve myself in these things. So I guess something that I want to say on that is, if there is something that you're passionate about, but other people don't really see a reason, that isn't necessarily a reason for you to not do that thing. Conversely, if there is something that you're not passionate about, but people are just pushing you to do it for some reason, doesn't mean you have to force yourself into it, because at the end of the day, passion is what helps drive people towards action that is genuinely meaningful.
I'd love to learn a little bit about this time during your senior year. Can you share your story about that time in your life and how it's paid off?
I guess like the number one thing that comes to mind is how stressed I was. I think the number one thing that really got me through this was starting as early as possible. So, well, not like super duper early, but I started like preparing my applications like during the latter half of the summer, like I started brainstorming like what I would want to showcase about myself, like what I wanted to prioritize, like showing on my resume and stuff like that. So that I would have more time to like really hone like my application and not really feel the last minute pressure of things. Yeah. And I think a majority of it was just like me going back and rereading like my application materials and essays, but also going to a lot of resources that were available, like my college counselor and also teachers who I was getting letter of recommendations from to get feedback on like my application materials. And they actually provided really, really helpful feedback. So it was just a process of like that. What I tried to highlight in my application was just how like the direction that I had throughout high school. I think one of my strengths was that I did a lot of things for all 4 years that I really invested a lot into in order to get a lot of output from. By doing that, I could really show how much I grew and transformed in each of those categories. And I think that is a really important thing that you could show in your application, the way you invest a lot. So that shows that you have passion, and also the fact that you were able to grow from that. Because I think colleges look not only for what you already have when you enter the university, but the potential output that you could give as an alumni of that university after having learned from them and having taken courses in that college.
Can you share a little bit now that you left KIS? You're now in New Haven, Connecticut at Yale. Can
Yeah.
you kind of summarize your freshman year, some of those high points, maybe even some of those challenges that you may have had just being away from home?
Oh my gosh. I it was genuinely a roller coaster my first year. And I think, well, number one, starting with the difference in culture, I think it's important to point out that it was very different going from a high school in Korea to a university in America, simply just because like the culture is different. The people here are a lot more like expressive and outspoken, which is good and also challenging in a lot of ways, because I had to figure out how to like self-express better in order to continue to kind of like thrive in this kind of environment as well. But it also encouraged me to grow as a person and really learn from this new environment, which I really appreciated. Um, Also being away from home was challenging, but the way that I kind of tried to get around this is I would video call my mom every morning when I was like getting ready for the day, and video call my dad every night after dinner. And I think that really helped. I think there's no shame in communicating a lot with your parents. I know that a lot of first years like kind of feel ashamed for keeping in touch with their parents because some people like say it's like, oh, it's so childish. But I think it's very valuable to like, keep in touch with your family and your loved ones and even your high school friends, because they're really valuable connections that you make throughout your life.
Are you ever worried about like I guess like burning out? Have you experienced that, or I know someone that's experiencing?
If I'm gonna be so honest, yes, I have. I feel like in my first year, definitely I experienced it because um definitely in high school, I realized that I was in a bubble where I was always like high achieving and I was always like on top of my stuff. And then I come to college and it's like, wow, I need to face the reality that I'm never always going to be 100% on top of my stuff, because obviously college is a bigger experience. There's going to be more challenges, so many new experiences, so many new things that I have to learn. And it was definitely challenging for me to like kind of deal with, especially because I'm dealing with it all alone without the support networks like that I'm used to having, at least physically around me. But that's also where I learned my most valuable lessons, which is number one, there's no shame in like going and talking to people in order to like work out your emotions about burnout. And Number two, like really just understanding that you're so human and it's all a part of like this amazing human experience that you're going to go through challenges and no one does anything perfectly the first time. To anyone who's like scared of burning out, I would say if you do burn out, that is not an isolated experience for you. But also don't be afraid to reach out and seek like help, talk to people. And I'm always also here to talk to anybody who might want to like have a deeper conversation with me if I can be of any help.
Tell me about how you've handled more free time on your hands, and then the challenges
Oh,
of wanting to be social, but also really focused academically. How have you managed that just personally?
first of all, on being like having a lot of time on my hands, I feel like in general, this is where like my high school habits kind of helped because when you're thrown into an unfamiliar situation, I feel like you always go back to your habits first and foremost, like subconsciously. And my high school habit was generally not to spend too much like time irresponsibly and try to allocate at least a chunk of my day to doing something productive like studying or doing homework. And I feel like that really helped me not like get too unhinged and stay on track and on top of my work. Um, but definitely the feeling of wanting to be social caught up with me as well. And the way that I was able to balance that with my academics is I try to be most social through my club activities. So in that way, we're still kind of like being productive, but at the same time, there is an allocated time to be social. Like you can go and make friends during club meetings, but that's a structured time so you don't really lose your sense of time and like kind of like use it irresponsibly, but you can still kind of get the exposure to new people and new connections that you find valuable and interesting.
I guess like you're still not at the end of the journey, but up till now, like do you think it was worth it like to study and like stay on the grind?
So true. I think definitely it was worth it. I was having this conversation with my mom literally like an hour ago over video call, and she was telling me that it's really important to at least try something. And this really goes back to like like people's fears of like failure or fear of burning out and fear of challenges. And it's a very real fear and very valid. I have it all the time. But despite that, you really have to just go forward and do things sometimes in order to really learn from it and also just like build confidence in yourself that you have that initiative. So all that is to say, yes, it is totally worth it. And I'm very happy.
How do you think you've grown just as a person, and in what way?
That is such a good question because I feel like I've really grown a lot from being alone. And I realized this over like a lot of self-reflection over the summer because I had a lot of time to do that. And one way is I learned how to set smarter boundaries and like really figure out what exactly my boundaries are. So that is like one aspect of self-growth. And I'm saying I'm really happy that I'm able to have like more healthier relationships in my second year because I did that reflection. Another thing that I really figured out after spending so much time with myself is what I prefer doing that makes me feel better and what are some healthy habits that I can really commit myself to. So one thing that I'm really trying to do this year is like get an exercise every morning, and it's also to keep my body in shape, but more so to keep my like mental health up because I realized that in my first year, I did not really exercise at all. And my mental health took a hit because I was not moving my body. So that is like something I figured out. I also figured out that I really like to journal. I really like to talk with my high school friends and just in general watch true crime podcasts in order to make myself feel better. So that is like an aspect of self-growth that I think was really valuable and I'm proud of myself for.
Words of advice from you to our graduates from last year. They're in the midst of first
Mm.
semester, getting to midterms when there's always that natural struggle. What do you
Mhm.
have for advice or words of wisdom?
Well, first of all, I'm so proud of all of you guys. Like, I hope your first years are going really, really well in college. Um, as for advice, I would say definitely try to get your studying done in a regular manner. So don't skip your classes, go to your classes, take notes, and try to review the material as much as possible. So that you don't feel so rushed during midterm season and you're like, oh shoot, now I need to like catch up on so many missed lectures and I don't know anything. Another thing is, again, take advantage of the resources that you have concerning like professor office hours and your teaching assistants. Like, go to them and ask them for tips on how to study for the exams. Clarifying questions that you may have. Finally, don't forget to nourish yourself. Eat a lot of healthy food, get lots of rest, protect your mental and physical health, and you guys got this.